Before you were even born, before your mother knew she was carrying life in her womb, before the first cry you ever released into the air, God had already chosen you. He didn't choose you randomly. He didn't pick you because he ran out of options. He didn't choose you out of pity. He chose you because there is something he deposited in you that nobody else in your bloodline carries in the same measure. Your siblings may share your last name, your upbringing, and even your DNA, but they don't carry the exact spiritual blueprint God embedded inside of you. And you need to understand that his choice has nothing to do with favoritism. It has everything to do with divine assignment. When God chooses someone, he does so with intention. He doesn't choose based on the things people use to qualify themselves: education, appearance, wealth, or personality. He looks deeper. He peers into the very core of your being. He examines the raw material of your soul and sees whether you have the resilience, the humility, the endurance, and the faith to carry out a purpose bigger than yourself. Sometimes that choice is shocking to those around you. They'll look at you and see your flaws, your mistakes, your weaknesses, and wonder, why her? But God sees beyond the version of you that exists today. He sees the version of you that will emerge after the trials, after the crushing, after the molding. You may not have been the most talented, the most educated, or the most celebrated in your family, but God is not looking for the obvious choice. If he were, David would never have been anointed king, while his brothers stood taller and stronger. God often hides his greatest treasures inside vessels people underestimate. This is why he can pass over others in your family and place the mantle on you. It's not because your siblings are unworthy. It's because the assignment on your life required someone with your specific wiring, your exact history, your precise way of seeing and feeling the world. Sometimes being chosen feels less like an honor and more like a weight. You notice that while others in your family can take life lightly, you can't. You sense responsibilities that others don't feel. You can't just ignore certain problems. You feel compelled to solve them. You can't walk away from certain injustices. You feel called to confront them. And there are moments you wish God had chosen someone else, because the pressure of being the one feels heavy. But that weight is proof of the calling. God does not pour oil where there is no capacity to carry it. He saw in you a vessel that could be stretched, refined, and strengthened without breaking under the process. It's also why you may have gone through things in life that your siblings never had to face. Sometimes you've looked at them and thought, why does their life seem easier? Why do they get away with things I can't? Why do I go through storms that don't even touch them? It's because God is not training them for your position. He's training you for something higher, something deeper, something weightier. The anointing you carry demands a different preparation, and preparation is never easy. It breaks you, shapes you, and forces you to grow in ways comfort never could. Being chosen often means being set apart. There will be seasons where you feel misunderstood, even by the people who love you the most. Your siblings may not fully grasp why you make certain decisions, or why you can't settle for certain things. They may see you as too serious, too cautious, too different, but that difference is not a flaw, it's evidence of your calling. God separated you not to make you lonely, but to make you ready. Separation is not rejection, it's preservation. It's God shielding you from influences, distractions, and entanglements that could derail your destiny. You may even notice that God's discipline in your life feels sharper than in theirs. What they get away with, you get corrected for immediately. That's not because he loves you less, it's because he loves you too much to let you wander off the path. A chosen vessel cannot afford the luxury of spiritual laziness. You've been marked for something that requires you to be sharp, focused, and spiritually alert. Every correction is shaping you into the woman who can stand in the position he has prepared for you. And here's something you need to understand. God's choice is not just about you, it's about generations. When he chose you, he was thinking about the people who will come after you. He was thinking about your children, your grandchildren, and the countless lives you will touch. He knew that in your bloodline, there needed to be a shift, a breaking of certain cycles, a restoration of certain blessings, and you were the one who would have the courage and faith to make it happen. Your siblings may be a part of the story, but you are carrying the pen that will write a new chapter for your family's future. Sometimes God chooses the one who has been overlooked the most. You may have felt invisible growing up. Maybe your siblings were louder, more confident, or more praised, and you learned to fade into the background. But even in those silent years, God was watching you. He was shaping your heart, building your compassion, teaching you how to listen, how to endure, how to remain humble. The qualities that seemed small to people were treasures to God. And when the time came for him to choose a leader, a reformer, a trailblazer, he reached for the one who had been hidden, because hidden things are often the most valuable. You must also remember that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. God did not wait for you to be flawless before He called you. In fact, He chose you knowing every mistake you would make, every time you would fall, every weakness you would struggle with. And still He said, yes, she's the one. Why? Because your dependence on Him will be your greatest strength. He knows that you will not rely on your own wisdom, but on His guidance. He knows that you will not take the glory for yourself, but return it to Him. You may feel unqualified compared to your siblings. Maybe they have degrees you don't, talents you don't, connections you don't. But remember, God's kingdom operates on a different qualification system. He's not looking for the most qualified. He's looking for the most surrendered. And surrender is something you have mastered in the quiet, tear-filled prayers when no one was watching. While others were busy chasing their dreams, you were on your knees saying, Lord, use me. That heart posture is why He placed the mantle on you. Your siblings may love you, but they may not always understand the road you're on. Don't be discouraged by their misunderstanding. Some assignments are so specific, they can only be understood by the one who gave them. That's why you have to be okay with not explaining everything. Sometimes God will keep your next move, even from those closest to you, not because they are against you, but because the calling is sacred and must be guarded. And you will see this truth play out. The same people who questioned why you were chosen will one day come to you for guidance. They will see the fruit of your obedience. They will see the doors God has opened for you. They will see the lives transformed through your influence. And when that happens, you must remember that the calling was never about proving yourself. It was always about serving the one who called you. You are not chosen because you are better than your siblings. You are chosen because your role in the family story is unique. They have their own paths, their own purposes, and their own callings. But God decided that through you, certain breakthroughs would come, certain chains would break, certain blessings would flow. And that's not a light thing. That's a holy responsibility. You must walk in that awareness. Stop comparing your life to theirs. Stop wondering why your path is harder or slower or different. It's different because it's divine. It's harder because it's higher. And it's slower because God is building something in you that will last. Every trial, every lonely night, every moment you felt misunderstood, every prayer that felt unanswered, it was all part of the shaping. And when the fullness of time comes, you will see why He passed over others and placed the assignment in your hands. You will see that He was not just trusting you with a position. He was trusting you with His heart. You are not just a sister in the family. You are a chosen vessel in the kingdom. Walk like it, speak like it, pray like it, live like it. Because the one who chose you over your siblings did so knowing that you would carry the weight, protect the oil, and fulfill the mission. And when you feel the pressure, when you feel the loneliness, when you feel the cost, remember, you were not chosen because you were ready. You were chosen because you were willing. And a willing heart in the hands of God can change the world. And when you begin to understand the weight of being chosen, you also begin to see why your life could never be ordinary. You've probably noticed that nothing about your journey has been predictable. While others seem to walk straight paths, you've been taken through winding roads, detours, and valleys you never asked for. There were times you thought you were lost, times you felt like you had been forgotten, but each step was intentional. God was not taking you in circles. He was building your endurance for the mountains you would later have to climb. He was giving you the kind of vision you only get when you've seen both the lowest valleys and the highest peaks. You may have felt the sting of rejection in ways that cut deeper than anyone around you. It's possible you faced betrayals from people you loved, doors that closed right when you thought they would open, opportunities that slipped through your fingers after you gave everything to prepare for them. And yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still believing. That's not an accident. That's evidence that God's hand has been on you the whole time. The blows that were meant to knock you out became the very blows that shaped you into someone unbreakable. There are moments when you might have resented the process. You might have looked at your siblings and thought, why do they seem free from this kind of struggle? Why don't they face this kind of spiritual battle? But what you didn't realize was that the warfare you've endured is a direct reflection of the destiny you carry. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on people who pose no threat to his plans. The very fact that your life has been marked by such intense battles is proof that you've been marked for intense impact. Sometimes God allows the pressure to get so heavy that you have no choice but to lean on Him completely. He strips away the safety nets, the backup plans, the comfortable options, because He needs you to discover that your source is Him alone. And when you reach that place of total dependency, something shifts in your spirit. You stop measuring your potential by your resources and start measuring it by His promises. You stop worrying about who is for you or against you and start resting in the truth that if He chose you, He has already factored in every obstacle and every opposition. Being chosen over your siblings may also mean you are called to break patterns that have existed in your family for generations. You might be the first to step into levels of faith your family has never seen before. You might be the first to walk away from toxic cycles, the first to set new standards for how relationships, finances, or integrity should be handled. And that means there will be resistance, not just from people but from the spiritual strongholds that have been comfortable in your family line for years. They will fight you because you are the one carrying the authority to evict them. It's in those moments you have to remind yourself, you are not here to blend in. You are here to shift things. You are not here to maintain the status quo. You are here to break it. You are not here to repeat history. You are here to rewrite it. And rewriting history is never easy. It costs you something. It may cost you relationships, comfort, reputation, and at times peace. But it will be worth it when you see the chains falling off, and the blessings flowing in ways your ancestors prayed for but never experienced. You will also realize that God's choice often brings with it a burden for people you've never met. You'll find yourself praying for strangers, feeling a heaviness for situations far from your own life. That's because the calling on your life is not confined to your family. It stretches far beyond. He has placed in you the capacity to intercede, to speak life, to stand in the gap for people who may never even know your name. And that level of influence starts in private before it's ever seen in public. There's a reason your siblings may not understand why you spend so much time seeking God, why you can't just ignore certain convictions, why you seem to take your spiritual walk so seriously. It's because you've been entrusted with something sacred. The oil on your life is not casual, it's costly. It was purchased through tears, through sacrifices, through nights of wrestling with God until your spirit broke open to receive His will. And once you've paid that price, you can't live like nothing happened. You can't go back to the way things used to be. You may be tempted to hide sometimes, to downplay your gift so you don't stand out too much, to shrink yourself so no one feels uncomfortable around you. But hiding will never serve your calling. You weren't chosen to be silent. You were chosen to be a light, and a light that hides under a basket helps no one. The world doesn't need you to be quieter. It needs you to be clearer. Your siblings have their roles, but your role is to step into the fullness of the assignment without apology. God knew that choosing you would create tension at times. He knew there would be comparisons, whispers, maybe even jealousy. But He also knew that if you stayed close to Him, your heart would remain pure through it all. The moment you begin to measure your worth by comparison is the moment you step out of alignment with your calling. You can't look at their lane and question why yours looks different. You can't ask why their journey seems shorter or smoother. God's path for you is tailor-made, designed to bring out the exact strength, wisdom, and character required for the impact He has ordained. And here's the truth that will set you free. Being chosen over your siblings does not make you superior to them. It simply makes you responsible for a different assignment. In the kingdom, positions are not about power. They're about service. The higher the calling, the deeper the sacrifice. You are not called to lord over anyone. You are called to lift them. You are not called to boast in being chosen. You are called to bear the weight of it with humility. And if you can carry the weight without letting pride creep in, you will see God trust you with even more. Your life is going to be a testimony, not just for your family, but for many who have felt overlooked and unworthy. They will watch you and realize that God's choice is not about being the loudest, the most impressive, or the most perfect. It's about being willing to be molded. And when they see how you've endured, how you've remained steadfast, how you've kept your integrity when it would have been easier to compromise, they will be inspired to believe that maybe, just maybe, they too have been chosen for something greater. And there will be days when the calling feels heavier than your own strength. You will wake up wondering if you have what it takes to keep going, if you can keep showing up when your heart is tired, and your body feels worn. You will wonder why God couldn't have given this to someone stronger, someone braver, someone more qualified. But those thoughts will always be silenced when you remember that He chose you, knowing exactly what you could handle with His help. He never intended for you to carry the weight alone. Every time you lean on Him in your weakness, His strength shows up. Every time you feel like you're breaking, He is actually making you unbreakable. And you will find that the very challenges that once made you cry in frustration will become the testimonies that make you cry in gratitude. There will be a day you look back and realize that the moments you thought were going to destroy you were the very moments that forged you. The seasons where you felt stripped of everything were the seasons where you were actually being clothed in power. The days you thought were wasted were the days when roots were growing deep under the surface. God has been building you in ways your siblings will never fully understand. Because they haven't walked your road, they haven't carried your load, and they haven't been called to your assignment. It will also become clear that your life is a mess. Whether you speak from a platform or whisper prayers in secret, everything about your journey will speak to others. Your perseverance will speak. Your humility will speak. Your victories will speak. Your scars will speak, and they will tell a story of a God who is intentional in his choosing, who looks past outward appearances, and sees the hidden treasure in a person's soul. People may try to figure out why you were chosen over others, but they will never be able to understand it fully, because it's a decision rooted in divine wisdom, not human logic. There's something else you must prepare for. Sometimes being chosen means being the one who has to go first into unfamiliar territory. You will be called to step out in faith when there's no clear path. You will have to make decisions without examples to follow. You will have to believe God for things no one in your family has ever seen before. And that's where courage becomes your closest companion. You will have to silence the voices of doubt, including the ones in your own head, and trust that the same God who called you will also guide you. When you go first, you take arrows others don't. You endure storms others avoid. You face resistance others don't have to deal with. But you also get to see breakthroughs others only dream about. You see walls fall. You see impossible doors swing open. You see promises fulfilled in living color. And when those victories come, they're not just for you, they're for everyone connected to you. The blessings on your life will overflow to your siblings, your family, and even people you've never met. Because when God elevates one, he often uses that elevation to lift many. And yet the greatest joy in being chosen is not the recognition, not the blessings, not even the victories. It's the closeness you develop with the one who chose you. In the quiet places, in the hidden seasons, in the moments when no one else is watching, you learn the sound of his voice. You learn how to move when he says move and stay when he says stay. You learn how to trust his timing, even when your heart is restless. You learn that the real reward is his presence, and that everything else is just a byproduct of walking with him. Your siblings may not always see the battles you fight in prayer, the tears you shed in worship, or the sacrifices you make in obedience. They may not know how many nights you've wrestled with God about the cost of this calling, but he sees, and he keeps a record. Not one tear you've cried has been wasted. Not one prayer you've prayed has been ignored. Not one act of obedience has gone unnoticed. And in time, every hidden seed you've sown will bear fruit in ways that will leave no doubt that you were chosen for such a time as this. There will be moments when the weight of being chosen makes you long for a simpler life, one without the pressure, without the responsibility. But deep down you know you wouldn't trade it, because nothing compares to knowing you are walking in the exact purpose you were created. Nothing compares to the peace that comes from knowing you are in alignment with heaven, and nothing compares to the moment you will one day stand before God and hear him say, "Well done." That moment will make every sacrifice worth it. The truth is, being chosen over your siblings is not about competition. It's about completion. You are not replacing them. You are fulfilling a specific piece of God's plan. They have their own assignments, their own roles, and their own seasons of elevation. But your calling is yours alone, and it requires your full yes, your full heart, and your full trust. If you can hold on to that truth, you will walk this path with both boldness and humility, knowing that while the road is narrow, the destination is glorious. And when people look at your life and see what God has done, they will know that it was not by your strength, your wisdom, or your ability. They will know it was by his choosing, his empowering, and his faithfulness. They will know that the same God who picked you out of the crowd, out of the family, out of the ordinary, is the same God who sustained you through it all. And in that moment, the only thing left to do will be to give him the glory. Because the choice was never about making you great. It was about making his greatness known through you. And as you continue on this path, you will begin to notice that the hand of God has been weaving your story in ways you could not have imagined. Every disappointment that once left you confused will start to reveal its purpose. Every detour that felt like a delay will be seen as divine protection. You will realize that the reason some opportunities never opened for you, it's because God was keeping you from places you could not handle the weight of your calling. He wasn't withholding them from you. He was preserving you. He was hiding you until the appointed time, when your unveiling would serve the greatest impact. You may think about the moments when you were young and felt different from your siblings, without fully understanding why. There were times you were drawn to things they had no interest in. You carried burdens in your heart they didn't even notice. You asked deeper questions. You sensed things that others overlooked. That was not just personality. That was destiny stirring inside you even before you knew its name. God had already planted seeds in your spirit that grow into a harvest. The world around you could not see it. Sometimes being chosen means carrying dreams that don't make sense to those closest to you. Your siblings might have thought your vision was too big, too unrealistic, too impossible. But what they couldn't see was that your vision wasn't just a personal ambition. It was a divine download. God showed you glimpses of the future to pull you forward, to give you the courage to endure seasons that would otherwise break you. When you're chosen, you live with an internal compass that always points you toward your purpose, even when the road is unfamiliar.
There will also be seasons where God tests your heart to make sure you can handle the weight of being chosen, without letting pride or bitterness creep in. You might watch others get opportunities you prayed for. You might see a sibling celebrated in moments when you feel overlooked, and yet in those seasons God will whisper to your spirit, "Be still. I'm working in ways you cannot see." He allows these moments to refine you, to keep your motives pure, to teach you that the calling is not about competition, it's about obedience. And obedience will often require you to do things that don't make sense in the moment. You will be told to move when staying would feel safer, to speak when silence would be more comfortable, to give when you feel you have little left. Each step of obedience becomes a building block in the foundation of your destiny. And when you look back, you will see how every act of faith, no matter how small, was leading you to the exact place He had in mind when He chose you. One of the hardest parts of being chosen over your siblings is that sometimes they may not understand the cost. They may see the blessings but not the battles. They may see the favor but not the fire you've walked through. They may not realize that the same oil that looks beautiful when it pours is costly, because it came from a crushing process. But you will know, and that knowledge will make you more compassionate, more humble, and more committed to using your influence to serve, not to boast. You will also come to see that your assignment was never meant to make your siblings feel less. It was meant to lift them higher. God chose you to be a bridge to your family, to connect them to resources, opportunities, and spiritual breakthroughs they may not have reached on their own. And while they may not always acknowledge it, there will come a time when they recognize that your sacrifices open doors for them too.
There will be moments when you will have to stand alone in decisions that others don't understand. You will have to refuse offers that seem appealing because they compromise your values. You will have to walk away from relationships that feel comfortable but are pulling you away from your purpose. You will have to say no to certain pleasures so you can say yes to your calling. And in those moments, loneliness may try to creep in, but it's in that loneliness where God will remind you that you were never alone. You were simply set apart. Being set apart can feel like isolation, but in truth it's insulation. God surrounds you with His presence so that nothing unclean can contaminate the anointing He's placed on your life. He shields you from premature exposure so that when the world finally sees you, they don't just see a woman, they see a vessel carrying His power. And that power will not just touch your life, but it will ripple outward, influencing lives you will never even meet in person. You'll find that the further you go, the more you'll have to let go of. The calling will require you to release old mindsets, unhealthy habits, and even the need for everyone's approval. You will learn that the only validation you truly need is God's. And when His voice says, "Well done," it won't matter who else applauds. You will be anchored in the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you are exactly where you're supposed to be. There's also a deep truth you will eventually embrace. God didn't choose you over your siblings to replace them. He chose you to blaze a trail that benefits them. He trusted you to endure the storms first, so they could walk on cleared ground. He allowed you to be the one to fight battles in prayer that would protect them from ever having to face certain attacks. And when you see them walking in freedoms you fought for, you will smile, knowing that your obedience was not in vain. And as the years pass, you will see a pattern. Every time you thought you were being overlooked, you were actually being prepared. Every time you felt delayed, you were actually being developed. Every time you felt left out, you were actually being lifted into a place where you could see further than before. God has been intentional from the start, and His choosing of you was never a gamble. It was a certainty, because He already saw the end from the beginning. When that moment comes where everything He's promised begins to unfold before your eyes, you will remember the days when you questioned why you were the one. And instead of asking, "Why me?" you will simply say, "Thank you for trusting me." Because now you will understand that His choice was not based on your perfection, but on His plan. And His plan was always bigger, always better, and always worth the cost. And as you keep walking this path, you will come to see that the weight of being chosen is not a burden meant to break you, but a mantle meant to mold you. Every season, every twist and turn, every moment of stretching is God's way of building in you the capacity to carry what others could not. You will see that the tears you shed in private were watering the seeds of your future. You will realize that the storms you survived were not designed to sink you, but to strengthen you, to teach you how to navigate deeper waters without fear. It is in those moments of deep reflection that you will understand why you could never fit in completely, even among those you love most. There has always been a part of you that felt different, not because you were better, but because you were set apart for something greater. You could be in the same room, laugh at the same jokes, share the same memories, yet there was an inner knowing that your path would take you somewhere they might never have to go. And that's not something to grieve, it's something to embrace. There will be days when you'll see your siblings living without the pressures you face, enjoying freedoms you had to give up, and you'll feel the weight of sacrifice pressing on you. But then you'll remember that freedom for them often came because you stood in the gap, because you prayed when no one else did, because you obeyed when others would have walked away. You were chosen to carry a certain fire, and that fire had to consume certain comforts, so that it could light the way for others. The beauty of God's choice is that He doesn't just select you for the hard things, He selects you for the holy things. You will witness moments of divine intervention that others miss. You will see miracles up close, not because you are lucky, but because you are positioned. When you are chosen, heaven's resources back you up. There will be times when provision arrives out of nowhere, when answers come just in time, when protection surrounds you in ways that make no sense to human reasoning. And you will know, it's because the one who chose you also sustains you. In the process, you will come to value the unseen more than the seen. You will begin to treasure the quiet moments in God's presence more than the applause of people. You will realize that influence without intimacy with God is empty. And so you will guard your relationship with Him above all else, knowing that it is the lifeline that keeps you steady through every season. There will also be tests that seem unfair, tests that feel too heavy for one person to carry. But those tests will become testimonies. You will look back on seasons when you thought you wouldn't survive, and realize that you not only survived, you grew. You will recall nights when you prayed for a way out, only to discover that God gave you a way through, and in that process, He made you stronger than you ever imagined. Your siblings might never know the full extent of what you've carried. They may see the victories without knowing the valleys you walked through to get there. But that's the beauty of grace. It covers the struggle, and allows the story to shine. And even if they never say it out loud, there will come a day when they will see that your faithfulness opened doors for them too. The call on your life will require you to keep your eyes forward. If you spend too much time looking to the side, comparing your journey to theirs, you will lose the focus needed to fulfill your assignment. Comparison is a distraction the enemy loves to use, because it shifts your gaze from one who called you to the ones walking beside you. Your strength will come from keeping your eyes fixed on the one who knows every step you will take before you take it. Over time you will begin to recognize that God's choice was never just about you. It was about every life your obedience would touch, the people you encourage, the prayers you pray, the breakthroughs you fight for in the Spirit. They all become part of a legacy that will outlive you. And when you understand that, you stop questioning why you were chosen, and start thanking God that you were trusted. You will also realize that the very things that made you feel unqualified are the things God will use the most. Your past pain will become your greatest empathy. Your past mistakes will become your deepest wisdom. Your past struggles will become your strongest testimony. And you will speak from a place of authority, not because you read it in a book, but because you lived it, and God brought you through it. Being chosen over your siblings doesn't mean God loves you more. It means He equipped you differently. They have their own battles, their own victories, their own destinies, and in God's design, every role matters. But He saw in you a heart willing to go where others might hesitate, a spirit willing to surrender fully. And that is why He placed the mantle on your shoulders. And when the fullness of His plan unfolds, you will look around and see that every sacrifice was worth it. You will see your siblings blessed, your family elevated, and people you never met inspired, all because you said yes. And in that moment, you will understand that His choice was never about favoritism. It was about fulfilling a promise that had been in His heart long before you took your first breath. And still the journey will not be without its challenges ahead. The higher you go, the more you will have to guard your heart. The more influence you gain, the more you will have to remember where your help comes from. The more visible your life becomes, the more intentional you must be about staying grounded in humility. But every step, every decision, every challenge will be another opportunity to prove that His choice was not misplaced. Because at the end of the day, the one who chose you over your siblings did so with the full knowledge of who you are, what you've been through, and who you will become. He saw the flaws, the fears, the failures, and still, He said she is the one. And nothing in heaven or on earth can reverse a choice God has made, because the hand of God is strategic. His choice is never random. When He looked at you, He did not merely see a daughter in the family. He saw the one whose spirit could carry a generational vision. He saw the one whose life could become the seed of restoration for everything that was broken before you were even born. You may have asked yourself countless times, why me? Why not my sister? Why not my brother? Why am I the one bearing this weight? And the answer is simple, because the weight is tailored for your shoulders. What would crush another will strengthen you. What would confuse another will give you clarity. What would break another will make you unshakable. It is not that your siblings are less valuable. It is that your assignment is different. Every person in the family has a role, but in Every generation there is someone God chooses as the point of contact between heaven and earth. That person becomes the one through whom new things are birthed. That person becomes the key that unlocks the divine blueprint for the entire lineage. You, woman, have been chosen not because of favoritism, but because of purpose alignment. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, God sanctified you and ordained you for this role. You were marked, set apart, and appointed for this journey before you took your first breath. You carry an unusual resilience, a hidden fire, that you may not have even recognized in yourself until life tested you. Notice that the battles you faced have always been heavier than what your siblings went through. This was not because you were cursed, but because God was building you for something weightier. The pressure you endured was training for the crown you would wear in the spirit. If your path has seemed lonelier, it's because God often pulls his chosen vessel into seasons of isolation to speak secrets others cannot hear. You have been misunderstood, misjudged, and sometimes even rejected by the very people you love. But that too is part of the process. God knows that isolation births revelation. Sometimes being chosen doesn't feel like an honor, it feels like a burden. You may watch your siblings live carefree lives while you carry responsibilities that are invisible to them. They might be allowed to walk in certain freedoms, but you feel a divine restriction, as if you can't just do what everyone else does. That's not punishment, that's protection. When you're chosen, God will not let you contaminate your destiny with unnecessary distractions. He will cut off relationships that would derail you, block opportunities that are not aligned with his plan, and close doors that would lead you in the wrong direction. To others it looks like loss, but to heaven it is strategy. God didn't choose you because you were the oldest or the smartest or the most talented. He chose you because you were the one who would say yes without compromise. He knew that when the moment came you would surrender, even if you didn't understand all the details. That's why he entrusted you with the spiritual battles, the intercessions, and the breakthroughs that others in your family will benefit from without knowing the cost you paid. They might enjoy the harvest, but you are the one sowing the seed in tears and plowing the ground in prayer. You might not realize it yet, but heaven has been recording every sacrifice you've made. Every time you wanted to give up but didn't, it was noted. Every time you forgave when you could have held a grudge, it was written. Every time you stood in the gap and prayed for a sibling who didn't even know you were interceding for them, it was counted. God does not overlook your hidden obedience. In fact, the very reason he chose you is because he knew you would handle the unseen battles with grace. The world might only celebrate visible victories, but God celebrates faithfulness in the shadows. When he looked at your siblings, he saw beauty, intelligence, and potential. But when he looked at you, he saw a warrior spirit clothed in compassion. He saw a woman who could stand in the middle of a storm and still declare his promises. He saw a leader disguised as a sister, a nurturer disguised as a daughter, a generational architect disguised as a simple woman living her life. He saw you not for where you were, but for where he was taking you. And so he placed on your life a mantle that you may not have asked for but were built to carry. Sometimes the anointing on your life will make others uncomfortable even within your family. People may misinterpret your strength as arrogance, your boundaries as pride, or your vision as rebellion. But God has not called you to be understood. He has called you to be obedient. You cannot measure your calling by how much approval you get from those around you. Your validation comes from the one who called you. If your journey requires you to walk a road different from your siblings, then walk it with boldness. You are not competing with them. You are completing the picture God designed for your family. The truth is, being chosen often means being the first. The first to break a cycle. The first to start a legacy. The first to confront what everyone else avoided. And being the first can be lonely. There are no footsteps to follow because you are making the path as you go. Your siblings may not understand the weight you carry until years from now when they see the fruit of your labor. But until then, you must walk with the confidence of someone who knows that obedience is better than comfort. You are a bridge, woman. A bridge between what was and what will be. And bridges are not built overnight. They are forged through pressure, weight, and alignment. God chose you because he knew you could handle being stretched without breaking, being pressed without collapsing, being misunderstood without losing your focus. You have been entrusted with an assignment that will bless your bloodline for generations to come. The prayers you pray today will echo in the lives of your children, your grandchildren, and even those who will bear your family name long after you are gone. Heaven has invested too much in you for you to doubt yourself now. The oil on your life is not cheap. It cost tears, sleepless nights, battles you fought silently, and moments where you questioned everything but still kept going. That's why God chose you over your siblings, not because you are better, but because you are built differently. You carry a spiritual infrastructure that can withstand storms others can't, and in due time the very siblings who may not understand you today will rise and call you blessed, for they will see that your obedience opened doors they could never have unlocked on their own. And so, woman, walk with your head high, knowing that the choice God made was not a mistake. Every trial, every delay,
Every weight has been a part of shaping you into the vessel he intended. You are the one he placed on the front lines, the one he trusted with the keys to your family's future. And because he chose you, victory is not just a possibility, it is a certainty. Because what you carry is not just for you, it is for nations, for generations, for destinies tied to your obedience. You were chosen over your siblings because God knew that you would not allow comfort to distract you from calling. He saw that you would not allow people's applause or criticism to make you deviate from the assignment. He saw that you would not let the storms drown you, nor would you allow the sun to scorch you into giving up. He knew your roots would go deep, so that when the winds of doubt and the waves of pain came crashing, you would still be standing holding the mantle, guarding the vision, birthing the promise. You were chosen because though you may have questioned God in your private moments, you never abandoned him. You may have cried, but you still prayed. You may have felt overwhelmed, but you still worshipped. You may have been misunderstood, but you still loved. You may have been hurt, but you still forgave. Heaven knew that such a heart could carry something eternal. And yes, it might feel unfair sometimes. You might wonder why the weight seems heavier on you, why the responsibility feels greater, why the fire seems hotter in your life compared to theirs. But God trusted you with that fire because he knew the gold in you would not melt, it would be refined. Your siblings may carry their own assignments, but what you carry requires a deeper breaking, a more intense molding, a higher climb. You were chosen because God knew you could be both strong and tender, firm and compassionate, bold and humble. He knew you could face rejection and still keep moving forward. He knew you could be overlooked by men but still celebrated in heaven. He knew that in moments when others would quit, you would dig deeper into him. You would fight through the dark, and you would emerge with light in your hands to give to others. Being chosen is not about superiority, it's about stewardship. God gave you what he gave you, because he knew you would not bury it in the ground like the servant who hid his talent. You may not have been the oldest, the most educated, or the most celebrated, but you were the most surrendered. And heaven measures surrender above status. While others may have looked at outward qualifications, God searched the heart. He found yours willing, pliable, and ready to be shaped. Your siblings might not understand it now. They may even think you are being favored unfairly. But what they don't see is the private sacrifices you make, the hidden battles you fight, the unseen tears you shed. They don't know how many nights you have warred in prayer for the very family that questions you. They don't see that every breakthrough you walk in is tied to chains you already broke in the spirit, long before it manifested in the natural. You were chosen because God knew you would not misuse his blessing for your glory. He knew you would not turn the oil into a means to boast, but a means to heal others. He knew you would keep pointing back to him, even when people tried to point to you. He knew that your yes to him was not conditional on comfort. He knew you would be willing to be misunderstood, willing to lose friends, willing to stand alone if necessary, willing to say, Lord, not my will but yours be done, and actually mean it. Heaven saw you in your unseen years before anyone clapped for you, before anyone recognized you, and found in you a heart that would worship without a stage, pray without an audience, and give without a camera. That is why you were chosen. And here's the thing, being chosen doesn't make life easier, it makes it holier. It demands a constant dying to self, a constant alignment with God's voice, a constant stretching beyond what is comfortable. It requires you to go places others will not go, speak when others stay silent, act when others hesitate. It demands you love without conditions, serve without recognition, and keep believing without visible proof. It asks you to stand in the gap when no one else will, to carry the intercession when others drop it, to birth in the spirit what others aborted out of fear or doubt. And you do it not because you are better, but because you are chosen. You were chosen because God knew you would survive what killed others. He knew the betrayals would not make you bitter. He knew the delays would not make you doubt his timing. He knew the losses would not make you abandon his presence. He knew you would be the one to set a new standard, to break generational patterns, to tear down old altars, and build new ones that honor him. You were chosen because he knew you could be trusted with secrets of heaven, that you could carry prophetic words without twisting them for personal gain, that you could hold divine strategies, and release them only when he said it was time. He knew that even when it was hard, you would still choose him over everything else. And that kind of faithfulness, that kind of loyalty, that kind of surrendered heart, is what qualifies you for the kind of assignments that shift nations and change generations. And so, woman, you must understand this. You were never a random choice. You were a divine appointment. God did not glance at the family tree and spin a wheel. He handpicked you, set you apart, and whispered in the corridors of eternity, "This one will carry it." You were chosen because you could handle what would crush others. You were selected because your shoulders could bear the weight of destiny, your spirit could endure the fires of refining, and your heart could hold the depth of his vision. Every scar you carry is proof that you survived battles others never even saw. Every tear you cried in silence was counted, and every prayer you thought hit the ceiling was recorded in heaven's archives. Do not envy what your siblings have. Do not question why their path seemed easier, why they didn't walk through the storms you did. You were called to deeper waters, and deeper waters always have bigger waves. You were trusted with pain, because pain produces power, and you were trusted with rejection because rejection opened the door to revelation. They may not understand why the mantle skipped them and fell on you, but you do not need their understanding. You need only God's confirmation. He has already crowned you in the Spirit. He has already spoken your name in the courts of heaven. Angels have already been dispatched to open doors you haven't even knocked on yet. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. You are not less than. You are the vessel He marked before the foundation of the world. And when it is time for your manifestation, those who doubted you will see that it was never favoritism, it was preparation. So stand tall, walk boldly, speak with authority, live with confidence. You are not the second choice. You are not the backup plan. You are the chosen one from the beginning. And when the fullness of time comes, the world will finally see what heaven already knew, that the mantle fits you perfectly, and no one else could have worn it.